and welcome to the Total Soccer Show. My name is Daryl Grove and I'm joined by a man who always delivers on his debut. His name is Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
Hello. Maybe not quite like the man we're about to talk about, but I try. I remember
you delivering on your Total Soccer Show debut back in 2009.
There we go. Yeah.
You're now many Total Soccer shows in. Do you think Zlatan will be going as strong for the LA Galaxy and in Major League Soccer as you are now 9 years into the Total Soccer Show?
I mean, probably.
Yeah.
I don't know what he is capable of or not capable of, so sure, why not?
We don't think he'll still be there in 9 years.
No, he's gonna score a brace every single game for the rest of his life for the next 9 years.
He's going to average 2 goals every 20 minutes?
Yeah. That works.
That should work out, right? He will be top scorer.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But not Player of the Month for March.
It's a bold statement there.
I just saw a release that MLS Communications have, said for your consideration, consider Zlatan as MLS Player of the Month for March.
Really?
20 minutes, 2 goals.
That's a bit much.
I mean, most efficient player of March.
Oh man, I really don't like that.
Yeah.
I really don't like that. I like everything else about what happened with Zlatan this weekend, but maybe not so much that.
That's the scary part to me. Is it's enjoyable to watch Zlatan in Major League Soccer, especially when he delivers in El Trafico. We're going to talk about it. We're going to analyse the goals, all that. But I do worry about the overreaction of Major League Soccer, not fans, but front office and organisation wide, that it becomes like a cult of Zlatan League.
Yeah, I mean,
MLZ.
I mean, he definitely certainly did enough to justify all that excitement from this weekend. But when you're suddenly promoting him as Player of the Month for, not that I really even care about Player of the Month honors, but it just speaks to look how exciting this is. We have something shiny at a time when maybe you should be emphasizing all of the other players who've been there all month doing exciting things.
Maybe Carlos Vela could be half Player of the Month.
We can talk about that.
So let's talk about El Trafico. Sure. If you were living under a rock or did not have internet access this weekend, then you might have missed El Trafico, the inaugural El Trafico. The LA Galaxy hosting LAFC. LAFC go 3-0 up, heavily Carlos Vela and I would argue Marcos Orena influenced. And then LA Galaxy get one back. Zlatan comes off the bench, scores one. Is kind of involved in one, scores the equaliser, that long-range volley, scores the winner in the 91st minute. It is everything that LA Galaxy fans, I think Zlatan himself, could have dreamed for.
I think so. Should we start with LAFC? Because it did seem like maybe this was going to be their day.
We're going to tease more Zlatan talk for later on. We'll talk LAFC first, because they did sort of destroy the LA Galaxy in the opening 60 minutes or so.
Stu Holden had that good line, that El Trafico was all one-way traffic in the first 30 minutes or so. Because they went up 2-0 in the first half. I think got one more in the beginning of the second half to go up 3-0. And it was, you're absolutely right, it was the running of Marcos Orena and the way he creates space and the way I would say Carlos Vela specifically is able to find that space and get the ball in that space. It's a real space some more.
And even deeper underneath, you've got Benny Feilhaber in this new sort of Benny Perlo kind of role that Bob Bradley has invented for him, when he can sit deep and keep moving the ball around, pull some strings. It was all working. And it looked for all the world like Bob Bradley had 100% outcoached Sigi Schmid.
And I think he had, at least in the first half. I think that he got everything right, and the Galaxy were sort of reeling, and I think even a little bit in the second half. But I think the halftime changes that Sigi Schmid made, some of the adjustments he made in terms of where players were going to be positioned, that had as much of an impact as bringing on Zlatan Ibrahimovic.
I want to credit Matt Doyle, because this is where I first read this and noticed it, is he moved Carrasco a little, Sigi Schmid moved Carrasco, the LA Galaxy defensive midfielder, a little farther forward to apply pressure higher up the field, essentially so Benny Feilhaber couldn't be spraying passes around all day long. And that is literally how the Leggett goal that makes it 3-1 in about the 60th minute starts the comeback, really. That's how that comes about. It's Carrasco puts pressure on Feilhaber, who's suddenly loses the ball, coughs it up, and then Leggett, a few seconds later, has it in the back of the net. Zlatan wasn't even involved. He was watching from the bench.
But to your point about Matt Doyle, I think he was saying that one of the changes that Sigi Schmid makes later on is they go to a 4-4-2, they being the Galaxy, obviously. And even that was usually that's not going to be okay because you've got 2 central midfielders versus the 3 that LAFC had. But by that time, the momentum had shifted to such an extent that it kind of worked in their favor even so. And I think it starts with that sort of little of adjustment of sending Carrasco forward. You really go aggressive on LAFC and you force them into being reactive.
I agree with all that, but really, if we're being honest, even from a genuine tactical level, introducing Zlatan Ibrahimovic causes what I would just straight up call Zlatan panic. with LAFC.
Yeah.
We've watched this live and we've rewatched it here in the office. You can genuinely see a difference in the way LAFC sort of panic defending positionally and everything, because they're so aware of this giant Swedish man with the aura about him. They do sort of everything wrong just because he's there, which is such a weird thing to see.
I mean, it is, but it isn't, because it's Zlatan Ibrahimovic. But like, it's not even just.
It's almost like you make it come true, right? Like you make the prophecy come true by panicking about it. If they just kept their calm, it might not have happened.
No, see, I agree, but I disagree a little bit, because like, it's not even just for the second goal, the Pontius diving header, where they kind of vacate space to make sure that Zlatan is marked. But when you're playing against a team and you know they have this one striker who, if you give them space, he's going to get a shot off, he might score, he's always going to cause problems, you are going to focus on him a little bit.
Yeah.
And like, I'm with you that they focused on him too much, to the extent that they're constantly making sure he's marked or double marked or everybody's paying attention to him. But I also understand why that would happen naturally, because suddenly here's this guy who we never thought we'd be playing against, and suddenly we're playing against, and we got to make sure everybody marks up, and then other players slip through the cracks as a result.
Gian Martino's like, he wasn't playing in college last year.
Exactly, right? Yeah, exactly. Then again, nor was Chris Pontius, and maybe that's why he struggles to mark Chris Pontius for that second goal for the Galaxy.
Can we break down that Galaxy second goal, which sort of involves Zlatan but doesn't, if that makes sense? Because I think it's a good illustration of the Zlatan panic that is happening on the streets of LAFC.
All right, break it down.
To paraphrase Morrissey.
Sure.
So it's a low Zlatan ball into the back post. And Matinho kind of steps and does a really panicky clearance, I would say, in a way that's just like, the Zlatan ball came in, what do I do? Instead of just taking a touch or anything, he just sort of slides and
well, it's because he's trying to cut the ball out before it gets to,
Yeah.
I think it's Pontius who's standing behind him.
Right.
So I guess I don't necessarily fault him. Again, I'm not trying to like defend LAFC players specifically, but I think in that situation, I get why he would do that, because he's just trying to make that play to make sure his guy doesn't get the open shot.
Well, that's not even the worst part.
That's true.
Because then the ball gets recycled out to Manuel Boateng on the left. And Zlatan is kind of standing next to him even farther left. And we sort of rewatch this, and you see Beitashour, who's an experienced player, right? Beitashour's been around, won MLS Cup last year with Toronto, all that stuff, right? You see Beitashour gesture, to Jakovic, his centre-back. No, go out there on the wing and mark Zlatan, and like just walk past Boateng, ignore the guy with the ball, mark the big Swedish guy, and this giant hole opens up that Boateng smartly doesn't pass to Zlatan, which I think might be their instinct, right? That'd be tempting.
Probably, yeah.
Instead, just sees the hole and thinks, all right, I'll dribble into there. I can get there quite quickly. I got fast little legs.
Yeah.
Strolls forward and crosses to the back post.
And I can understand what Beitashour is thinking in that moment of like, no, I'll slide inside. You keep tracking Zlatan. We'll keep it covered. But again, it is definitely, if that is, Matt Doyle's joke was like, if that's Ariel Lassiter, do they send people wide to mark him? Does the center back trip over
people
there? Yeah, exactly. No, I think
for Roy Lassiter, maybe.
I think Jakovic stays where he needs to be. Maybe Beitashour goes with him, or even they just sort of give him that space out wide. And I think if that is Zlatan, fine. Like, he's going to play a good ball in probably, but it's not him playing it to himself. Like, so I think that is one where I think it is just that over focus on Zlatan. Even Beitashour is probably too far wide. Jakovic goes with him, and suddenly there is that space for Boateng to operate within. And even when he gets inside the box, there's really nobody wanting to step to him. And I do think it is because there's like, oh, he could drop it at any moment. Let's just stand off. We'll settle for the cross. But now you're settling from a cross inside your own penalty area.
Yep.
That's less than ideal.
That goal wasn't the one that got viewed 10 million times on YouTube.
Not so much, no.
The one that got viewed 10 million times on YouTube, this is a stat I read on Twitter, I trust the source there, is the equaliser, the Zlatan Ibrahimovic volley from, I actually don't know how many yards, but let's just say quite far. Several yards. Yeah. It's not, so I saw this first live, it looked like a lob. And I thought, how did he keep that so low? When you see it on the multiple replays, it's essentially like a sidewinder volley. Is that a fair description of it?
Yeah. I don't know what makes it a winder volley. What makes it sidewinder versus a side volley?
I think because of the way it slightly moves left and right in the air instead of sort of straight up and down.
Yeah, because he hits it with like just the outside of his laces, which I think is always going to give it that crazy spin, which it definitely has. You can see that on the slow-mo replay. But that is how he's able to hit it, and he hits it perfectly. It's worth noting that when I first saw this, I thought it was one of those like bounces, and then he hits it off of the bounce when it's starting to drop back down. And this one, he just takes it out of the air off of that sort of headed collision that happens. I mean, it's even more impressive in that regard because it is like over the shoulder, out of the air. It's not he bounces and then he hits the volley. That's slightly easier to do. It's pretty impressive control and technique, and obviously the distance compounds it.
Any blame on goalkeeper Tyler Miller here?
I think
I've
so.
seen this debated. If so, why do you blame him?
I don't necessarily blame him.
I'm not saying we're saying 100% blame on him, but essentially, did he make this possible for Zlatan Ibrahimovic?
Yes, he definitely did, for a variety of reasons. So he goes wide to take the free kick. I don't necessarily fault him, because there is that situation where if you have your center back take that, even if they kick it long, because it's a center back and not the goalkeeper, now you've got two players back. That means your offside line is a little bit more raggedy.
And if you haven't seen this, Miller is taking a free kick from essentially like the right back spot.
Yeah.
That helps you visualize.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think the issue is that Miller doesn't get over fast enough. And I think basically he takes that kick, and my assumption is that he then watches to where the kick goes, and then he slowly starts to move back towards the middle of the field. I don't necessarily even fault him then for not going backwards, because with the ball all the way up the field, you'd expect him to be around the top of his penalty area. But I think once it's very clear that that ball is coming back,
because Steres heads it pretty firmly back upfield, right? It's quite a powerful defensive header.
And I think Miller doesn't really read that correctly, and that's where he's now at like the corner of the 18. Then he stops to kind of protest and call for a foul. And again, that little hesitation, it's a series of little hesitations that add up to suddenly he is not where he needs to be.
Because he does pause with that. I can't remember the name of the defender that Kamara jumps with, Kamara jumps with. But you see Miller like stop and appeal, and that even there he loses a valuable second of backtracking, which could have made the difference, right?
Yeah, and the key thing there is that even if he had backtracked 2 yards, I think that probably stops Zlatan from shooting, because if you were Zlatan,
there's not enough goal to aim at.
I mean, basically. Or you look up and you see like, oh, he's backing up, he's got that area covered. Maybe you attempt it, but now it's a higher degree of difficulty because the keeper's that much closer to his own goal.
Yeah.
So maybe you overthink it a little bit. You have to try to do a little bit more calculation, and maybe you miss hit, maybe you hit it wide, don't hit it as cleanly. But when the goalkeeper is standing at like the top corner of his 18 and sort of not really paying attention, it's like, oh, that's an entire goal to aim at. I'm going to do my thing.
I've done worse to Joe Hart. I can do this to you.
Yes. and again, I think for Tyler Miller, it is sort of like you asked me this, and I do think it's true that he probably is used to a certain caliber of player, and maybe he is not used to the type of player who can just see that and take that opportunity like that.
Yeah, so that's why it's not like all Tyler Miller's fault. There's still like a level of sort of magic, to use a very cliched term, that has to happen on Zlatan's part to punish him for it.
I mean, there's a reason why John Strong screams like, "Oh, come on," when that ball goes in.
Which was a great call. I really enjoyed that call.
He got two good ones in this game. He definitely did.
Worth pointing out that that free kick that Tyler Miller takes, which is what puts him out of position, is actually Zlatan Ibrahimovic fouling Carlos Vela. And then, if you notice this, kicking the ball at him on the floor and then jawing at him, and I believe at one point calling him an expletive baby.
Yes, I believe that was who he was speaking to as they continued down the field. But even that, man, like Carlos Vela, if his entire game is about finding those little opportunities and those little pockets of space, if you're then focused on jawing with Zlatan, you're not focused on getting in space and winning headers and winning second balls, and that in and of itself factors into what happens.
Do you think there's also like a weird pecking order, like king of the game type thing? Because until Zlatan stepped on the field, Carlos Vela really was running the show, right? His one goal where he put it top left corner, like bent it around. Second goal where he literally dribbled in a circle before finishing. Like he really was running the show and was the star of the whole thing. But then you've got Zlatan knocking you over, kicking the ball at you, calling you a baby, drawing at you. Suddenly there's like, it's like, the long live the king kind of thing, right?
This is a very random reference, so I apologize. But like,
this is the Total Soccer, right?
Exactly. But from a rooting interest standpoint, I remember when Turkey failed to make the 2006 World Cup. Bear with me. Okay. And I remember their final game was against the Ukraine. And that was in like peak Andrei Shevchenko form. And I remember him subbing on for Ukraine, and everybody who was in the Turkish bar with me was like, oh God, like, oh no, like back off, don't give him space, everybody focus on him. And when you have that player who has that ability and that level of swagger coming in, I do think that, yes, even if Carlos Vela is in complete run of form, is scoring goals, looks completely deadly, as soon as you see that player subbing in, the entire team, all the fans probably have that little like, uh-oh, we got to back off. And especially since it's a home game for the Galaxy, it's going to elevate the fans a bit more. They're going to be a bit more vocal. You could hear it that John Strong, I think, thought they were protesting a foul that wasn't given. In reality, they were all just amped to see Zlatan come on, and it changes the dynamic just that little bit.
Absolutely. And it would have been a great story if it had finished 3-3 with that Zlatan volley, It ends with a Zlatan winner, 91st minute
Yep.
head up. There's so much to talk about in this goal.
And I want to give you credit for spotting something that I think, again, it's like Zlatan is going to get the headlines, and rightfully so. But the person who probably deserves them is Sigi Schmid for making the changes we've already talked about. And then there's another substitution that allows that Zlatan header to happen.
So Felcher comes off for Romney, who's a defender, which seemed weird at the time, right? And I thought maybe, he's just trying to lock up this 3-3 and, gridlock on El Trafico kind of thing. But what he does is Boateng switches wings, goes to the right. Romney goes to left back-ish. Ashley Cole plays left wing for the final, I'm not sure how many, 5 or 6 minutes. It's Ashley Cole that puts in that perfect cross to Zlatan.
And cynical Taylor was like, why would you move like the older like left back forward? Why wouldn't you put in fresh legs? And Daryl's response was, because Ashley Cole can hit a ball or can serve a ball. And right you were, my friend.
He certainly can, right? So it's Cole that... There's a lot more to talk about this goal. Maybe we'll back up a little bit in a minute. But the actual finish, Ashley Cole crosses it in. Zlatan gets across the front of Tyler Miller, gets his head to it.
Yes.
When Ashley Cole serves that ball in, is Zlatan offside or not?
I wanted to say no, he is not. I watched a couple different angles, a couple different replays. Stu Holden posted an image like from the sideline. You can see the ball. You can see Zlatan just behind the ball. That was all good enough for me until I saw the comments, which pointed out that, but if that person taking the photo takes a step to the left or the right, that changes the angle completely. The person who has kind of sold me on the idea that he is probably in an offside position is the man sitting across the table from me.
What did I do?
You showed me your paper chart or your paper meter.
Okay, so here's the important thing before we explain what we did in the studio is it doesn't matter that Zlatan is behind the LAFC defence because the ball is also behind the LAFC defence, right?
Yep.
So if Zlatan is level with the ball, he's onside, right? Because then it's a lateral pass.
Yeah.
I want to double check myself here because I got an offside thing wrong.
You are correct.
With Blessing a couple of weeks back, right?
Yep.
So the question is simply, is Zlatan ahead of the ball when Ashley Cole crosses it? And I tried my best in the studio to go with the grass lines are cut into the field. We're going to assume that the StubHub linesman can cut a straight line.
Yep.
Laid a piece of paper level with the edge of it and covers everybody. And then you slowly move backwards. And the question would be, what's going to appear first? Is it Zlatan or is it the ball?
Yep.
And it's Zlatan by what, when you sort of scale it up, is probably just a few inches.
I feel like you worked really hard there not to say by his nose because that doesn't necessarily help as much. I hope he's not listening. But I think you're right. I still think that number one, though...
Sashi Kleshtin would say that to him.
That is definitely true. Right? I forgot about that, yeah. Oh, yeah, that worked out. I would say two things. Number one, that you're probably right, that it does look that way based on that map, that chart, that drawing, whatever you want to go with. But number two is that we still don't have access to what the VAR officials are seeing in terms of those lines. And we've seen that before with other games where it's actually this is the line they use, and by that measurement he is onside.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, it's so close that I don't really have much of a problem with it either way. I think I probably would have been more disappointed if it had been called back. Again, not a Galaxy fan, not an LAFC fan, just a fan of, the spectacle. And I think you can understand why the AR in the first place would have kept the flag down because it looked that tight, and especially from that vantage point. And then I can understand then, if that's the decision given on the field, why the VAR officials might not overrule.
My only concern is if there is if there was a VAR review.
If tie goes to the Zlatan?
If it was, it was tie goes to the marketing department. If somebody up there was sort of maybe he is offside, but this is a good story for Major League Soccer. This will play well around the world and get us more. I'm not actually saying that happened, but it's enough. The nomination for the Player of the Month for March thing is enough to make me think that there's a 5% chance that someone up there was it's good for the league if this goes in.
And I set you up with that one because I think, generally speaking, you and I have the policy of tie goes to the runner. If it's that tight, give it to the goal scorer.
Yeah.
But when it's tie-ish, where it seems like he's offside, if it's tie-ish goes to the Zlatan, then that's more of an issue for me.
Okay, so the offside addressed. There's a lot more to talk about with, unless you wanted to say something else about the finish.
No,
go
ahead.
I think there's a lot more going on with this goal.
Okay.
And I think, if you don't mind, we're going to work backwards.
Sure.
So if that's a concept we can go with. The first smart thing, if we're going backwards, the final smart thing that Zlatan does is not chase the ball. right? When that ball goes through and he is the initial ball through is for Zlatan and he is offside. Yep. He runs towards it, sees Ashley Cole come in, who had been in an onside position, checks away instead. That is a very smart decision.
And I think it's smarter because he does. It's not just that he doesn't make a run. He does make the run, but then he cuts that run off enough that, number one, he's never really like making a play on the ball. He's never coming close enough to actually touch the ball. Mm-hmm. But I think it's enough that the defenders stop. Yes. Or at least hesitate and think, oh, he's offside, we don't need to worry about it. But when he makes that run away, now the ball is still very much in play. Mm-hmm. Ashley Cole can run on, and he hasn't, I know we might get a question about that one, has not influenced because that doesn't really matter. Yeah. He has to touch the ball with the new rules.
And that is the new rule, right? Mm-hmm. It wouldn't have been offside or it wouldn't have been called until he touched it. It's almost like he's using that new rule to his advantage, which not that many players do.
Because I think there's an element of like if Tyler Miller had come charging off his line and there was an imminent collision, maybe that factors into the decision a little bit. But when it's just sort of like, he made a step, then he changed his mind. People should have been smarter and kept playing through the whistle.
LAFC should have kept going. More on playing to the whistle much, much later when we talk fifth-tier English soccer later in today's
As we always do.
Okay, but in the build-up to even that moment, it's LAFC with the ball. I think it's just Zlatan kind of trying to press the whole defence on his own. You see him taking sort of a leadership role, calling Ola Kamara with him, calling the rest of the LA Galaxy team up to press in the 90-something minute. Only 20 minutes in, he's already sort of kind of directing defensive traffic, which isn't something you think about with Ibrahimovic, but that's exactly what he's doing here. That pressure is what causes LAFC to cough up the ball. That's how the LA Galaxy get the ball back. A press that Zlatan triggered.
And I'm aware of, like, I'm probably going to make people's eyes roll a little bit with this one, but that's fine. I love Zlatan. I also think that is what he brings, is that element of like the ability to recognize like, oh, this is our moment. Like, this is our chance. And if you're LAFC and you were up 3-0 and suddenly it's 3-3 and Zlatan is on the field, you might think like, all right, let's slow it down. Let's kill this one off. 3-3 in our first El Trafico. That's fine. We'll get him at home. But with Zlatan kind of sensing the occasion maybe and calling for that press a little bit more, now you're putting them under pressure. You're going to force them into making some passes they don't want to be making or playing faster than they want to be playing. But it also means inevitably when LAFC do cough the ball up, they're coughing it up around midfield as opposed to moving around slowly and then eventually maybe forcing a cross that maybe Bingham collects and now LA Galaxy have to build from their back. Just by winning the ball higher up the field, you set yourself up for opportunities.
Agree. And the final thing he does is it's tempting again to play directly to Mr. Ibrahimovic. He instead, you see, I can't remember the LA Galaxy player who receives the ball to begin with when the LAFC attack breaks down, but you see him point to Ola Kamara, like give it to him, he's in a better position, and then Kamara lays it off and that's when the ball goes through. Yep. So just by sort of directing the ball away from him to a teammate helps out too. I'm aware that we might be sort of overly praising Zlatan Ibrahimovic, but it was quite the 20 minutes.
Well, I think we probably are, but I think I am because I'm still mixed, and I'll talk about why in a second. But I was impressed with a lot of what I saw from him because I think with his personality, and just his fame and persona, he's always going to be the person that people look to. And I think for him to be saying like, no, pass to that guy, or when the ball does come to him, but it's maybe overhit or it's not like a clean pass, I still saw him every time like do that sort of like, oh, good idea. Like
I saw a thumbs up for an overhit cross on a free kick.
Exactly. Yeah. And I just think that
Thierry Henry didn't used to do that at Red Bulls.
And it's kind of key that when you have that person who feels like they should be getting the ball all the time and they don't, and then they start to get angry, it has a very negative impact on the team. But when that person is actually directing play and helping people get better, it has the opposite of a negative impact.
Well, here's the thing. It was only 20 minutes.
This is what I want to talk about.
Has he set the bar so high that it's going to be disappointing for the rest of the season, right? It can't all be long-range volleys and sort of clever offside tricks and this and that from now until December.
This is why I think I really do. I think this, in retrospect, is why I had the reaction to that March Player of the Month, because I initially gave myself thumbs down to me for doubting Zlatan. I'm still not sure that I was wrong with my concerns. For two reasons. Because my concerns come in where, like, you're going to have to change the way you play if you're the Galaxy. Somebody's going to have to miss out that isn't going to be very happy about it.
Gio Dos Santos, look of it.
Is he going to be happy he's Zlatan to come off the bench? This was kind of the perfect situation of coming back from the international break, neither Dos Santos' brother playing, so you don't have to worry about bumping somebody out. It's his debut, but he hasn't had much time, so of course he's going to be okay with coming off the bench. 1 month from now, is he okay coming off the bench? I don't know. Is it going to be as easy for things to be changed? I don't know. And that's where I think time will tell. And that's where I think you might want to hold off giving him Player of the Season awards or an All-Star vote until we see how things progress. A very good start, yes, but a good start does not an entire season make.
But it does make me interested to see what happens next week, which is
yes.
and I'm sort of one of the people who's all in on hashtag play your kids. I was really excited with Philadelphia Union selecting like Austin Trusty and Matthew Real and a whole backline under 25 this weekend. You know what I mean? I'm really still into the play your kids thing, but I'm also still quite happy to spend 25 minutes at the front of a podcast that normally starts with the Premier League talking about Zlatan and the LA Galaxy.
And this was not planned. But you have given us a perfect segue into today's sponsor being SeatGeek, because I may or may not have gone on the SeatGeek app to start looking at when the Galaxy come to DC United. They do not this season. I was sad to see. I was not surprised to see that ticket prices for Galaxy traveling to other teams seem to have ticked up in the last few weeks.
Are we in the Beckham zone?
I believe we are.
All right. Well, buying tickets to sporting events and concerts used to be confusing, but now there's a better way with today's sponsor, SeatGeek. With the SeatGeek app, with just 2 taps on your phone, you can buy tickets to any sporting or live event, any type of entertainment, Zlatan or otherwise.
It saves you time and money by searching multiple ticket sites to compare prices and find amazing deals. And I kind of use it just to search, just to see like passively like, oh, who's coming to town? Unfortunately, in this situation, it is not Zlatan, but I really would recommend that if you live near a Major League Soccer city, maybe you've sort of not necessarily jumped at the opportunity to go see them play. I feel like you probably want to see Zlatan play, or maybe see the opportunity for him to play.
So I thought you should go if like Andrew Carlton's playing, or Chris Durkin's playing, or one of the other hashtag play your kids.
All right, let me put it this way then. Let me retract that.
My tongue is firmly in my cheek.
I don't necessarily disagree, but what I would say is we're hanging out with our neighbors. They have family in town. None of them are big into soccer.
Oh, you? Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, we were. And the brother-in-law of the neighbor was saying like, hey, have you been on Twitter today? And I just assumed he was a soccer fan because it was all about Zlatan. And I was like, oh, yeah, we were talking. And they had no idea who he was. They just knew like this guy is suddenly amazing, right? And I told them a little bit about like the, taking the full page ad out. But for those, like if you have those people in your life who are sort of interested in soccer, Zlatan is that person that you could say like, we need to go watch him play in person and maybe get some more people into it that way.
That's fair.
Yeah, because I was the advertisement was enough for them to be very confused and amused by Zlatan.
All right, but say if I wanted to go and see a Major League Soccer game involving Zlatan, but I kind of didn't want to pay full price. I wanted to pay like maybe $20 less than all the other people were paying. Yeah. How would I do that?
Well, wizardry, or you could just be a TSS listener, because our listeners can get $20 off their first SeatGeek purchase. Just download the SeatGeek app and enter the promo code TSS today. That's promo code TSS for $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase.
There we go. Thank you to SeatGeek for sponsoring today's episode. Okay, a lot of Zlatan talk at the top of the show. We didn't even mention it's the thumbs up, thumbs down review. We didn't even do thumbs. It was a Zlatan special.
It's just thumbs up to everything.
Thumbs up
thumbs up to LAFC, thumbs up to the Galaxy, thumbs up to Zlatan.
Great game of soccer, right? Saturday afternoon, lovely. 3 o'clock kickoff.
That'll work.
On TV. You can't even get that in England.
Yeah, thumbs down to me for ruining the game for the people we were having drinks with at that moment, because they were DVRing it and trying to avoid it. And I was like, oh, Zlatan did this. And they're like, oh, okay.
Spoiler alert. Also happening this weekend.
Well done, Daryl.
The English Premier League also took place.
That also happened
this weekend. How about that? So, for our thumbs up, thumbs down review, I am going to start with thumbs up to Eric Dyer and Dele Alli for making long balls sexy again. In Spurs' 3-1 win over Chelsea. You know the goal I'm talking about, Taylor.
I certainly do. It's Dele Alli's first goal. It is a long ball over the top, but this is the type of ball that forced us to, or like allowed us to coin the phrase direct over ball, where it's not just a hoofed ball long. It is Eric Dyer picking his head up, spotting a very smart run from Dele Alli, and Dele Alli putting himself in the right position to make that run in the first place. But it is an inch perfect driven long ball over the top that isn't just a hopeful
bit of backspin on it.
But it's not just a hopeful, I'll play him on the channel, people will run forward, something will come off of it. It is this could very well set up a goal if I hit it perfectly, and perfectly is how he hit it.
Part of me was also thinking that Eric Dyer is looking at Jordan Henderson's performance for the England team. The World Cup's coming, and Eric Dyer seems to be like the second choice to play that number 6 role for England, and he's thinking, I got to show Southgate some nice passing from deep midfield here.
And I listened to a few other podcasts this weekend and this morning. I know, right? And one in particular, without naming names, there's one person on there who was not impressed by this, and they set it up as saying basically they read the Tottenham Twitter account version of this goal.
Was he Irish?
He was Irish.
There we go.
They were the Tottenham Twitter account version of this goal, and then the Chelsea one, and then the question was like, which one is correct? And he was like, well, they both are. I mean, it's just a long ball. Like, why do we? But really, this isn't just a long ball.
Yep.
And
it's a direct over ball.
And it's also what we praised Bayern for when they were playing Dortmund a few seasons ago, where it was that sort of like, oh, the expectation is they're going to play on the ground and be quick, and then and then you can blitz them with that sort of long ball over the top, direct over ball. Excuse me, if you've got the players who are looking to make those runs.
Haven't we talked a lot in the past about how hard it is as well, though, to take that ball down?
Yes.
And when you're sort of jumping in the air, and Dele Alli made it look easy.
He sure
on the run, jump
did.
in the air, settle the ball as you go, and then just clip it past.
It never touches the ground, does it? Doesn't he settle it and then hit it at the same time?
I think he does settle it out of the air. I'm pretty confident.
And even if it does bounce, it is still the ability not just to settle, but then pick his head up, pick a spot, put that ball in the net. It's all really good at a time where I think Dele Alli maybe needed to remind everybody why we're all so excited about Dele Alli.
Oh, so I gave thumbs up to Eric Dyer and Dele Alli. Can also give 10 middle fingers and 2 V signs to Dele Alli.
Oh, the Chelsea photo?
That's what Chelsea fans do.
Yep.
But actually, double thumbs up.
I still haven't seen it. I've only heard about it. I'll have to check it out once we're done recording.
There's some other hand gestures in there as well that we can't really mention on this show. There's also the third goal. It's a bit that goalmouth scramble that ends with Dele Alli finishing it. That all starts with, once again, an Eric Dyer clever pass. Right, it's not off the ground this time. It's right on the ground through the middle of midfield, finds the feet of Christian Eriksen, definitely sort of breaking the lines. I think it would have had a packing stat of about +4 or +5.
Yes, and I want to combine two things here because I want to say thumbs up to Christian Eriksen. Obviously, basically, I have thumbs up to Christian Eriksen's decision making. Obviously, his goal is pretty impressive.
It's not bad.
You can see Match of the Day did a good breakdown of why he started to get more shooting opportunities from distance, and obviously he has the ability to take them. And yet, my favorite part of this was the Dele Alli goal, because did you notice that Christian Eriksen goes off on Son? Because he does. He screams at him. Because
after the ball's in the net?
After the ball's in the net for Dele Alli, because it's that through ball, Son gets on the end of it. He basically, he goes to shoot, I think it is, and then there's like a scrum in the box, and Eric Lamela is wide open at the penalty spot screaming for it. Son could just easily drop it. It's definitely a goal, but he goes to try to shoot himself. That gets blocked, and it spills to Dele Alli, who then pokes it home. But it was Son definitely trying to get his name on the score sheet and get a little bit of that glory. And afterwards, as they all go to celebrate, Christian Eriksen at the back post screams at Son and points at Eric Lamela and is not having it. But that is the type of thing, that is the mentality you've got to have if you want to challenge for the title, stay in the top 4, challenge for European places or Champions League itself. You've got to be able to say, no, I don't care if we scored. You did that wrong. Don't do that again, or I'm going to make you hear about it.
Also helps if you can hit strikes like Christian Eriksen.
There is that,
equalise at the start.
I mean, that
of
one's
the first
ridiculous,
half, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we've praised one North London team. Mind if I go elsewhere in North London?
Wait, can I first have one thumbs down to Zappacosta?
Oh, why?
Because Tottenham, Chelsea go ahead 1-0. Tottenham equalize right at the end of the first half.
Yep.
Chelsea have one more opportunity to shoot it, and I kind of cannot believe that you haven't mentioned this, because there are many things that annoy Daryl when people do them on a soccer field. The one that I think drives you insane is what Zappacosta does, which is he has the ball rolling to him at the top of the box, but it's rolling onto his right foot. He is left-footed, so he waits and lets it roll across his body before he shoots and kind of runs around it. And it works.
Running around the ball is my least favorite thing.
And it works in the sense that he's able to shoot left-footed, but he blasts that sucker over. So even getting it onto his favorite foot, he still misses. And I think I am a big believer in this idea that if you have too much time to think, it is not a good thing. And I think in waiting and waiting and waiting, he thinks, okay, I've got it on this foot, I got to make sure it's good, and instead blasts it into the crowd.
Yep.
So thumbs down to Zappacosta for doing the thing that makes Daryl mad.
Yeah, doing that all Zappacosta.
Uh-huh.
All right, elsewhere in
oh my goodness, Daryl's on fire.
Thumbs up.
No huzzas yet, Daryl. Well done.
Thumbs up to Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang for giving us a positive, non-Wenger out-related Arsenal story.
Yeah.
Did you see what Aubameyang did this weekend?
He scored a penalty.
So in Arsenal's 3-0 win over Stoke, he, scored a penalty.
Yep.
Scored a second goal. Then Lacazette, making his return, wins a penalty.
Yep.
It's Aubameyang's to take and get a hat-trick.
Yep.
Gives the ball to Lacazette. Really selfless moment. Selfless moment is is exactly what it is. Essentially saying that, it's his first game back, it's good for his confidence, it's better for the team. That gives me a great feeling about Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
And also I saw this.
He's also weirdly his competitor, right? For a starting striker spot.
Yep.
Yeah, so
That said, he's doing fine in a couple different leagues because I saw the tweet doing the rounds. Do you remember when Aubameyang moved to Arsenal? What month?
January?
Correct. So it's been January, February, March, 3 months. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang is still the second leading scorer in the Bundesliga right now.
In the whole Bundesliga?
Yes.
Wow.
Behind, not surprisingly, Robert Lewandowski. More on him later. But yes, so Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang doing well in two different competitions.
Ex-Dortmund players doing well in the Bundesliga scoring charts.
This is true.
What else you got in the Premier League?
I got thumbs up to Leroy Sana's entire performance.
That volley was mean.
Yeah.
That was too hard. You shouldn't be allowed to volley that hard.
He made Alan Shearer curse on air Match of the Day. Yes. I mean, not like an aggressive curse, but still a curse. No, not at all. Just still like it was a moment of genuine admiration that necessitated a genuine curse. But in Everton's 3-1 loss to Man City, Leroy Sana scores an amazing volley to open the scoring, but is just a constant problem for Everton because he kept his butt on the touchline, so he kept pulling Everton players out wide.
You love that, right? You're a fan of butt on the touchline.
Well, just that if you want to create space, that's the easy way to do it because people have to pay attention to you. But if you are hyper vigilant, and again, this was Danny at Match of the Day. Thank you. He had the point that if you go back,
Could be Danny Mills. I took a gamble.
I think it was Danny Mills actually.
Okay.
Do you remember the assist?
Do you have was he short with a shaved head?
Yep.
They both are.
There you go. But he was the one who looked angry? They both are? Do you remember the MLS assist that he has for, I believe it was Gabriel Jesus' goal that comes from Kevin De Bruyne, that it starts with Leroy Sana juggling over a player and then driving? The reason why, because I kept trying to figure out why he was so wide open to receive, it comes from an Ederson goal kick that Leroy Sana gets with nobody really around him, and he has time to kind of settle it and then flick it over the player. I couldn't find a replay that showed it. Match of the Day had it. He starts on the left touchline, and he sprints 30 yards to get into that space because he recognizes no one is there. And
That's not the first time we've seen him do that,
nope,
right?
But he recognizes nobody else is there. That space has been vacated. He occupies it. Ederson sees him. As soon as he starts that run, plays that ball, that's why he's wide open. So it's his movement, his awareness, his little bits of trickery, and his finishing ability on all-around incredible game from Leroy Sana.
All around incredible from Manchester City as well. The stat I saw was they had 82.13% possession, the highest by an away side ever in a Premier League game since data became available in 2003.
And that's why I have thumbs down to Big Sam for thinking one defensive midfielder should do. I'll put Wayne Rooney in there too.
So they did a two-man midfield of Wayne Rooney and Morgan Schneiderlin.
Yes.
Right? The Man United rejects two-man midfield.
Yeah, how'd that work out?
Not so well.
Not so well. I also saw just before we started recording that I think Fernandinho himself had 14% of possession in the game.
In the first half.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes it a little better, I guess.
Yeah, Fernandinho had almost as much possession as Everton in the first half.
Boy.
That's rough, right?
Yeah, so maybe not the approach to take.
I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I do know that there are, 18 points left to play for in the Premier League, and that if Manchester City beat Manchester United at the Etihad next weekend, they are official Premier League winners as opposed to unofficial Premier League winners, which is what they are right now.
And I did have a momentary thought of like, if you're Man United, don't you... I've already got this solved. Don't worry, people. I was like, don't you maybe want to have it already decided so that it's not on you? Like then it's not like Manchester Derby doesn't have that much at stake, but then that necessitates a guard of honor, and you probably don't want to give them the guard of honor at City Stadium. So instead, at the Etihad.
Yep.
So instead, all still to play for in terms of when Man City secure the title. Yeah,
so that'd be worth watching though next weekend, right?
I think so.
Yeah,
but really, this game. Like, I am not a match-fixing conspiracy theorist, but if you told me at halftime that City were like, look, we'll let you score a goal, but we're not going to do anything else. Let's just let this one finish as it is, and Everton were like, sure, that's fine. Because, it could have been like 9-0 if City really kept pressing. It just felt like they went up 3-0 and were like, okay, we'll just kill this game off. We know what's happening.
We've got a big game in midweek, right? It's Man City-Liverpool in the Champions League in midweek.
Should we move to Liverpool then?
If you'd like to.
I would like to. Liverpool at Crystal Palace winning 2-1. Somewhat controversially. Is that where we should start with this one?
Nothing controversial about that Mo Salah finish.
Nothing controversial about that, except that maybe Liverpool shouldn't have had 11 players on the field.
Yeah, so Sadio Mane gets booked for a dive, which he definitely deserved to get booked for. And then later in the game...
Jurgen Klopp disagrees.
I'm going to talk about that in a second. Later in the game, he sort of believes he's been fouled, goes down, grabs the ball. There's a lot of players do, right, when they sort of just assume it's a foul. But it's actually a handball because the foul hadn't been given. Doesn't get a yellow, which is an intentional handling of the ball, which is a yellow card. So that's very lenient on the referee's part.
Who spotted it? Saw it very clearly, and I think just didn't want to send Mane off for that handball.
So, first of all, thumbs up to Mo Salah for that finish. It seemed like the whole world slowed down around him. It's like he had our DVR here and he could press pause and just go frame by frame, ready for that finish. But thumbs down to Jurgen Klopp.
Yep.
Jurgen Klopp, sort of trying to defend the Sadio Mane non-2 yellow card decision, says that the dive that he got yellow card for, Jurgen Klopp says, Sadio Mane, it was no dive. Diving is without contact. There was contact 100%. The player wants to carry on, and then you see you can't, so you go down. That is not what happened, Jurgen Klopp. That is not what happened. I think Sadio Mane realised that he'd been clipped, but he was still on his feet and he wasn't in danger of going down. Then he decided to go down. That's a dive. I'm arguing semantics with Jurgen Klopp.
I mean, not really. I think you're arguing facts because this felt like that. Like, if you've ever heard the person make an argument where they're like, and if you accept this, and then if you accept that, then you must accept this, and it was sort of like, well, I don't accept any of that. None of that seemed.
He's trying to gegenpress me, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly right. He's trying to gegenpress me into agreeing. And in this situation, like, there's contact. And I get what he's getting at because we have seen that where a player gets clipped, tries to stay on their feet, eventually goes down, and the penalty is given. In this situation, it was definitely Sadio Mane feeling that contact and thinking,
from James McArthur,
let's see what I can do here, and goes down.
I would say, even though I do give it a thumbs down, it's probably also a thumbs up for Klopp just looking out for his players and finding the semantic loophole to try and argue that he didn't deserve to be sent off. Just as a message to Mane, like, hey, I got your back, buddy.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
Except that he then said he probably deserved to be sent off. So there was that, because then with the handling, he said, I thought it was a yellow. I thought he would be sent off when he wasn't. That was when he immediately was like, get him off the field. Get him off the field right now. And that's why that substitution happened immediately. So it was still sort of admonishing Sadio Mane while, I guess, defending his player at the same time.
But a good win for Liverpool, and I'm very much looking forward to Liverpool-Man City in the Champions League.
I am as well. My final note on this game, it kind of goes back to Zlatan for a second, because really I think you've signed Zlatan, MLS is a retirement league again. First of all, I genuinely think that a lot of people who are espousing that belief are people who don't really like Major League Soccer, so they want something to criticize it for.
Like you start from position and argue backwards.
But I guarantee you that if you ask Crystal Palace fans, would you rather have Zlatan or Christian Benteke? The answer to that is pretty obvious. He missed 2 big chances in this game. He has missed many of those this season.
Yeah.
And I think really should have done better with both of those opportunities. And if he does, it's a Crystal Palace win, or at very least a draw. And I think this is one that maybe Palace fans are going to be looking at Roy Hodgson as well as an opportunity to have definitely picked up some points. And they've done this several times this season against big caliber teams, dropping points at the exact wrong moment. I feel like this isn't necessarily going to cost them in terms of relegation promotion, but it's certainly going to cost them in terms of where they finish, which is, I said relegation promotion, deal with it. In terms of where they finish, which is money.
If you'll put the goalkeeper at the top of the page, then I can say relegation promotion.
But also just with the way, that's fair, with the way things are going in the league, it would be an easier way. You look at Newcastle winning this weekend, and just that one goal really goes a long way towards securing safety. This result, even getting a point here, would have done the same for Crystal Palace.
To go slightly off topic, I am still an admirer of Christian Benteke's skill set. I think he's a fantastic player. His decision to leave Aston Villa a few years back had cataclysmic consequences for all kinds of people, including his own career, right? It just didn't work out at Liverpool at all. And then also for Aston Villa, because they essentially had their whole game plan built around Christian Benteke's aerial prowess, and everything worked off of that. As soon as he was sold, it just didn't work. I think they got Gested in instead, and it just didn't work quite as well. Like, they got another tall dude.
Oh man, I didn't think. So you're putting all of the destruction at the feet of Christian Benteke.
I mean, Villa's relegation and then Benteke's sort of slight career slide, I think, all starts with his decision to leave Aston Villa.
And it's a good reminder again about how grass isn't always greener, and moving to Liverpool, I understand why you would want to do that completely, but it still leaves you in a position where if a new manager comes in and maybe doesn't want to play with a big target striker,
which is what happened,
you're in a lot of trouble, and you got to find a new spot. That spot is currently 17th in the Premier League table, just outside of the relegation zone, having played one more game than several of the teams in the relegation zone. Actually, just Southampton, but still.
Fair enough. I got one more team I want to talk about, one more game I want to talk about, and it's Manchester United's 2-0 win over Swansea City, because I watched this one live. I've got a very specific guy I want to talk about. I want to say thumbs up to Jesse Lingard, who I have now decided is the English Thomas Muller.
And
if you've listened to this show for a few years, you'll know that means I hold him at least in very high regard.
So I want to talk about that, because in the past, we were not the biggest fans of Jesse Lingard. I know our friend Pavlos, I think, still is not a fan of Jesse. So knowing that I just called him Jesse, by the way, knowing that you were probably going to hear about this from Pavlos, defend yourself.
Okay, so here's why Jesse Lingard is the English Thomas Muller. First of all, no obvious trickery and step overs and stuff that stand out in that way, right? Plays multiple positions. You'll see him behind a striker. You'll see him playing left side. You'll see him playing right side, right? Quick thinking. It was Jesse Lingard who took that quick free kick for England to play in Jamie Vardy. Really good understanding of space, which I will illustrate by discussing Manchester United's first goal. So this is the Lukaku goal against Swansea, quite early on, right?
Fourth minute, I think.
If you watch the build-up to that goal, Jesse Lingard has found a spot at the top of the box between defence and midfield, and he keeps just minutely adjusting to make sure not only is he away from any sort of marking players, he's also constantly available for a pass, which is why it looks really easy for Nemanja Matic to play a ball sort of between about four different Swansea players to find Lingard at the top of the box, right? But once he gets it there's a lot of players ahead of him, which is where I'll go to. I saw Rio Ferdinand, he was in the studio on BT Sport talking about how Jesse Lingard is one of the best 1 and 2 touch footballers around, meaning he'll just receive the ball, control and pass, and it goes back to that quick thinking. If you watch what he does, he finds that space, receives the ball, 1 touch control, 1 touch pass, gives it to Alexis Sanchez. Alexis Sanchez does the exact same thing, control, pass, to Lukaku, control, finish. And I think Lingard kind of sets the tempo for what a good Manchester United, when Manchester United are looking good, he sets the tempo for what they're doing with that 1 and 2 touch passing.
I think you're right. And I think he does that very well. The other thing I think he does very well is find space. We talked about it with Carlos Vela. We talked about it with a lot of players, about the ability to just have that awareness of, he's stepping off a little bit, I'll stay where I am. And Lingard didn't have a good shot. I think he scuffs his shot, but there was one in the first half, I believe it was, where Antonio Valencia gets the ball on the right-hand side, kind of does a driven pass across the top of the box to Jesse Lingard, who is wide open. He misses the chance, but he's wide open because he fakes that aggressive run towards the 6-yard box. Both the people who are paying attention to him drop way off, and then Jesse Lingard just stops and checks back, and now he's wide open.
It's very Thomas Muller, right? The Raumdeuter, the space exploiter, I believe is what.
I didn't know that one.
Space explorer or space exploiter?
It could be both.
That's what they used to call Thomas Muller, and also weirdly underappreciated, right? I remember, especially in the early days, no one was quite sure why everyone was so impressed with Thomas Muller, and yet these sort of coaches and people sort of, who paid close attention understood that Thomas Muller was very important. I think we're seeing the same thing from Jesse Lingard. I may just be trying to get myself talked up ready for the World Cup.
I think that's fair. Jesse Lingard, Thomas Muller, 4 syllables. We got that. And also kind of goofy. Thomas Muller did the Ronaldo impression. I believe ran around the training pitch at Bayern with a megaphone. Jesse Lingard does a lot of social media posting. Seems like a good locker room guy as well. So maybe they've got that in common too.
Speaking of another Man United player, I think you saw Angel Gomez, the young England U17
He made somebody cry, right?
I don't know if it's a family friend or a little brother or whatever. So Gomez is only, 17 or so. It was an Instagram video of him playing against this little kid in a backyard of a nice-looking house, probably near Manchester. And he sort of goes one-on-one against this little kid with 2 little goals in the garden. And he's flicking it over this kid's head and nutmegging him and going around and scoring. This kid runs off in full tears. Tears streaming, going, that classic. I mean, I did this when I was a kid. If anyone embarrassed me, leave me alone, running off. And you see Angel Gomez running after this kid saying, it's okay, you can megs me.
Oh,
trying to get him to come back and nutmeg him. But he went too hard on that kid, I think.
Was it Kagawa who did that as well and then just showed no remorse when the child started to cry?
I think it's his own son or daughter, right?
Yeah, well, you got to show that ruthlessness. I've got 2 more things from the Premier League, if you don't mind.
How about it?
From West Ham 3, Southampton 0. Daryl, master set piece theater. It's what we call it when you've got the elaborate set piece. Today I would like to unveil thumbs down to master low-budget, overly complicated set-piece theater because Southampton have a corner. Dusan Tadic takes. Charlie Austin checks away, checks too aggressively, so it's a short corner. Goes back to Tadic. Tadic squares it to the top of the box to Lamina. Lamina, I think, is supposed to either hit it first time, but he doesn't get it cleanly, so then he takes a touch and tries to fool around with it. Ball poked away from him. West Ham break. João Mario scores straight off of that. So it was this super elaborate corner kick routine that just broke down and led to the other team scoring.
What did you call it?
Low budget, overly complicated set piece theater. I didn't want to go community.
Off Broadway?
Yes, exactly. I just didn't want to, antagonize our acting listeners.
Edinburgh Fringe Festival Theatre. Is what that is.
But that was not great from Southampton, who needed a result, did not get it. They are in the relegation zone. And then, speaking of the relegation zone, I think I'm going to give thumbs up to West Brom for this one because
firing Alan Pardew.
But have you detected the significance of the day they fired Alan Pardew?
April 1st?
April 2nd.
April 2nd.
They did not fire him on April Fool's Day. And there is some speculation that people thought no one's going to believe it if we announce it on April Fool's Day.
Yeah.
So we'll wait until April 2nd to fire him.
That's really funny.
But certainly a justified firing if ever there were one.
Yeah. It's not all his fault.
It's not all his fault either. I mean, you're correct. I mean, when your team is out stealing taxis, that probably doesn't help too much. But 18 games in charge, 1 win. It took 7 points from those 18 games. Bottom of the table are West Brom.
And I think we might be coming towards the end of the hire Tony Pulis, hire Alan Pardew, that will save your team from relegation cycle.
He's still going to get a gig. He'll probably get a gig in the Championship would be my guess.
Yeah.
But I have a question for you, and I'm kind of putting you on the spot here. Because I've asked you before.
I live for the spot.
Of the West Midlands teams, which one do you consider like your biggest rival? Do you sort of root against most aggressively? Now, Daryl Grove is not a person who ever roots for anybody, even people who he doesn't necessarily like. I've never heard you be like, yeah, that guy failed. Like, that is not your style. You are a very positive soccer viewer. But I am wondering, have you somewhat enjoyed or taken a small amount of happiness in what has happened to West Brom this year?
Not too much, because even though West Brom are Wolves' biggest rival.
I failed to connect that. Thank you.
But I prefer to have the drama of playing them.
That makes sense.
Every season.
Yep.
And because they've been they've been in the Premier League so long, we've been in the Championship so long, and further down League One.
Yep.
So we're essentially, assuming Wolves finish top and West Brom finish bottom, we're going to pass each other. But then it's another year of not playing each other. So I would rather, I'd love to get to play West Brom, and they're as terrible as they are now, but they somehow finish 17th. That would be great. But unfortunately, that's not going to happen.
I don't think so. No, they've got a lot of work to do with 6 games remaining if they want to stay alive, and I think it's going to be difficult.
They need 10 points a game, right?
Something like that. Is that possible? Can you do that? If so, can you get the NBA Jam bonus where suddenly everything counts double? Sure.
Can I give a weird final thumbs up to Edison Price Lighting for holding on to the EPL.com URL? I accidentally went there once this weekend, and now my browser keeps sending me there.
Wow. They must have gotten offered so much money for that one.
Well, when you've designed and manufactured high-quality architectural lighting solutions proudly made in the USA since 1952, they're not going to be giving up that website very easily. I clicked on their about page.
If you slowed that down a little bit, I feel like I could make that all into a description for Bayern Munich's destruction of Borussia Dortmund from this weekend, because all of that sounded somewhat familiar. Can you say it one more time?
For EPL.com, It takes you to Edison Price Lighting. They're kind of trading on the Edison name that I don't think they own. They design and manufacture high-quality architectural lighting solutions proudly made in the USA since 1952.
Okay, so maybe not the proudly made since 1952 in the United States, but I will say, it's a very highly orchestrated, highly engineered, maybe not architecture, system that Bayern seem to be playing.
You're reaching for a segue to Bayern Dortmund here.
Yeah, I mean, I've already kind of moved us towards Bayern Dortmund, but I'm realizing that my segue maybe didn't work as beautifully as I had hoped.
Let's follow it to its logical conclusion anyway. Thumbs up.
You're just gonna make me sit in it? All right, fine.
To Bayern Munich for their 6-0 destruction of Borussia Dortmund. I've actually got thumbs crushing your head like the kids in the horse sketch for Bayern Munich, because that is what they did to Dortmund.
Yes,
and they did it with a bit of a tactical masterclass where they pushed Dortmund to the wings every time, then sent everybody over and really made it impossible to play out of pressure. And they did it with so Thomas Muller had this free roll underneath Lewandowski. James Rodriguez had sort of a very loose role in midfield, just ahead of Javi Martinez, the defensive midfielder, where both of those guys, who are both attacking players in many ways, right, were tasked with just floating all over, but following the ball to the side and crushing Dortmund over there. They could not play out at all.
No, and
it's tough to watch.
I'm not sure this works, but the thing I kept going back to in watching, I watched the extended highlights of this game. I did not watch the full thing. I don't think I needed to, because I think overall you get the gist.
I watched it live until 3-0.
But it reminded me with all of the mistakes that were being made by Dortmund and how just ruthless Bayern Munich were being. It reminded me of when Norm Macdonald first returned to SNL, and in his monologue he had the joke about like, I was fired for not being funny enough.
Yeah.
And then now I'm doing the monologue. And so I wondered, like, have I just gotten really funny? And I realized, no, the show is just really bad now. And I did have that moment of like, are Dortmund this bad? Or like, are Bayern this good? Oh, no, like it can be both. But Dortmund are just this bad in this moment. But you're absolutely right in watching it again, that they're that bad because they're being forced into doing something they don't want to be doing.
Yeah.
And then when they try to fight against that, they try to force it through the middle, but then they don't have options, so they start getting dispossessed and they can't connect, and then Bayern come right back down and punish them accordingly.
I mean, here's how bad things are in terms of not knowing what to do. It was Castro starts as a sort of holding midfielder for Dortmund. He gets robbed of the ball for, I believe, Bayern's third goal, because he's getting very indecisive about what to do because he doesn't know which way the pressure is sending him and he's trying to get out of it. So they sub him off in the first half, bring in Julian Weigl, up and coming sort of
solved it.
Number 6 midfielder, solved it. I can't remember which goal it is, but he does almost exactly the same thing where he doesn't know what to do, gives a loose pass giveaway, Bayern take it and ram another goal down their throat.
I think it was the fifth goal. I have it here because that was the final one.
It was 5-0 at half time, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. And almost 6, Bayern had a goal called back for offside because it took a deflection off a Bayern player. So it could have been 6-0 at the end of the first half. I'm just going to throw this out there. Probably not what Dortmund were looking for at the end of that first half.
And in case you're wondering, yes, Christian Pulisic did play in this game. He played on the right wing in what was, I guess, a 4-1-4-1, although they seem to be in just constant panic recovery, as if there were 11 Zlatans on Bayern Munich and Dortmund were LAFC. Pulisic had a couple of moments where he sort of, all this pressure came and he just used his pace to kind of burst away. He had a couple of runs down the right wing because of that. Even when he did, he couldn't find the ball across because Hummels and Boateng would just be there to block it. There was no way through. Most of the time, he was another one, pinned on the wing, couldn't find a pass, had to just sort of play it up the line out of pressure or get tackled trying to step in field.
Yep. And in the Mac from Always Sunny chart of where you stand on Christian Pulisic, I think I've moved to the middle of I'm leaning towards I'm okay with him looking for a move this summer.
Well, it depends if they hire Sturger full time or maybe someone else comes in. I don't know what's going to happen at Dortmund this summer.
Nor do I, but it just feels like this is just a good reminder of how big that gap is between Dortmund and Bayern. And if you have a misfiring Dortmund, if they have a bad season or another bad season that maybe he doesn't develop the way we've seen him develop in the past couple of years, maybe a move gets him some more playing time in a different situation. You always have the risk of maybe it doesn't, and then he's the new Christian Benteke. That's an obvious comparison, but
especially because Liverpool is a possible destination.
Ooh, lovely. But I think he still fits that model a bit better. It is still like in the past we've talked about it, and we always kind of do this. I think we like almost dedicated an entire segment of a show to like where should Pulisic go, and we ended up with he should stay at Borussia Dortmund. And I think I've moved towards maybe he can look at those greener pastures just a little bit more.
Well, looking at the Bundesliga, Bayern are 17 points clear of Schalke at the top. There are, I think it's the same as in England, there are 18 points to play for in the Bundesliga. So if Bayern win away to Augsburg next Saturday morning at 9:30, they will be Bundesliga champions. So they could beat Man City to it, I think.
Yeah, I mean, they could. And it's worth remembering, thank you, that like Man City are equally far ahead. I'm not saying that like the Bundesliga is now bad because one team is going to win it by such a wide margin. It's just more so that I think it's going to be more of that from Dortmund. It's going to be young players being signed, like bigger names being sold on for a lot of money, and maybe Pulisic is one of those, but maybe he's not, in which case he is still like part of that rebuilding process almost. And I don't know if that's what I would like to see from him going forward, as opposed to maybe getting a move to a club where he gets those minutes, gets more of a Champions League campaign.
Let's think about that in the summer.
That works.
Because we'll see how this Dortmund season ends.
I've sort of resigned myself to him moving to Liverpool, but sure, that's fine.
I'd watch some more Liverpool to watch Pulisic. That'd be okay.
Sure.
Any more thumbs before we move on to the Total Soccer Show Scouting Network? I've got one from the 5th tier of English football.
Let's talk about it.
You got anything else?
We've alluded to it previously. No, I think we have to talk about it.
Yeah, we can't forget this, right? Thumbs down, I'm afraid, to Woking defender Joey Jones for not understanding the consistency of mud.
Now, I have to ask you this before we describe what happened. Did you find an article where you got his name? Did you have to go find Woking's page to figure out who it was?
I saw this on Twitter. I think posted by there was a non-league newspaper that was turned into a website called non-league something, non-league football newspaper it might be called. They posted the clip of it. Right?
I only focus on non-league dogs, which is one of my favorite Twitter accounts.
Really
yes.
Good, right?
Yes.
So I watched that clip, but they didn't really name anyone. Then I went and looked up the team sheets for the various teams and found out who everybody was, so we could name and shame and praise various people.
All right, then let's get to the naming and the shaming.
Okay, so this is Woking versus Macclesfield. It's 2-2. It's the 94th minute. Okay, so Danny Whitehead, who's a Macclesfield midfielder, heads the ball through over the Woking defence for Tyrone Marsh to get on the end of it. Tyrone Marsh is one-on-one with the Woking keeper, side foots it past the Woking keeper towards the goal, runs off celebrating. He's beat the keeper, ball's heading that way, he's going to run off, arms in the air. At the same time, Joey Jones, Woking defender, sees what's happened, puts his hands on his head, turns around and just sort of looks up to the sky with his back to the goal. Then the ball hits a giant patch of mud, 1 yard from goal, sits still. Joey Jones is the closest player to the ball in the patch of mud. If he'd been watching, it was a very easy sort of, 2-3 steps, kick it clear. He saves the draw, saves it at 2-2. Danny Whitehead, the guy who'd headed it through, is the only one still watching. He sees what's happened. He goes charging in. The Woking goalkeeper sees it. He thinks, oh no, I can get to that. He can't because Whitehead gets there, pokes it in. Ball is actually in the back of the net now, runs off, celebrating. You hear someone in the crowd shouting, Jones, Jones. You see his teammates looking at him, and I think he just does the double. If you can double down on hands on head, that's what he does at that point.
But man, he is going to be a good reminder to every coach out there when they're talking to their players. Like, you can show that clip and be like, do not ever quit on the ball, either on offense or defense.
Because that's the whole game. It was 2-2. It was 2-2 in the 94th minute. It finishes 3-2 to Macclesfield. I'm sorry, Joey Jones, but you can serve as an example to kids all across the United States of America and probably England as well. Do not stop until you are sure that the play is dead.
And if you haven't seen this GIF...
Assumptions make bad three ways.
This is definitely true. Well done. You should watch it at least twice, because the first time it's always, as with any clip, it's really hard to see exactly what happens right away. You just are watching the scramble. Watch it again and you will realize it's probably worse than Daryl has described. It's knowing what was going to happen when I first watched it, I was still like, oh no.
Yeah. It's because he's so close, but he's just doing something completely different, right?
Yep.
It's like LAFC, where you sort of make the thing happen, you almost will it into existence.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
It's pretty brutal.
Also, I just realised, thumbs down to Tyrone Marsh celebrating a goal that didn't go in. He shouldn't have stopped either until that ball was in the back of the net.
It's almost like there's a reason they're in the fifth tier of English soccer.
And the reason is mud.
Yeah.
It's also a pleasant sort of throwback to my younger playing days, where we always had goal mouths full of mud and you didn't know if that ball could move beyond that patch.
Poor goalkeepers. Poor goalkeepers.
No, they got extra help.
I guess, but it also means you're diving into mud every single time.
Splashing around a bit, right?
It's always nice when they put the sprinkler head right in the 6-yard box, too. That's really helpful. That's a good way to get a concussion or a laceration.
Oh, final thing, thumbs up to starsandstripesfc.com for their He Believes April Fool's prank. Did you see that?
So many April Fool's jokes.
Great stuff. There's some good quotes in there as well.
I did not love the U.S. Soccer announces the hiring of Dave Sarakin. That was not one that made me thrilled. Luckily, I was able to figure out what was happening in time.
Are you ready for some updates on promising young players from around the globe?
I am. And I just want to say one more time how happy I was not to see that April Fool's joke while I was in TSS Tower, because we're on the 9th floor, and that's all I'm going to say.
And you'd be banging the floor and people would hear you.
Exactly.
That's definitely what you meant.
Of course.
Okay. First scouting report today is about a promising young right back. Alex Forbes is scouting Reggie Cannon, the 19-year-old right back for FC Dallas. Alex says Reggie continued his starting streak, playing the full 90 minutes against Seattle and Portland, and has been steadily improving his defensive deficiencies and chemistry with the attack. I've just realised Reggie Cannon was also part of an April Fool's prank.
Let's talk about it.
FC Dallas sort of released a video of Reggie Cannon walking into Fernando Clavijo, the Dallas technical director's office, and telling him that he's going to give up playing soccer. He wants to be an EMLS gamer instead. And they both play it super straight. It's really good acting from two people who are not actors.
All right.
It's excellent.
That's well done.
It includes the exchange, Clavijo saying, so can you at least still play this week? And Reggie Cannon saying, no, sorry, I can't. And then Fernando Clavijo, who, by the way, not a comedian, he's a technical director, going, half a game? With really good comic timing. I really appreciated it.
I want to say the last time there was a World Cup, which my math tells me was 2014. Ajax did, I think it was an April Fool's thing where they had their jersey for next season, and it was terrible. It was like a series of terrible jerseys. But Daley Blind's reaction to it was what made me start looking at Daley Blind. And then I was like, I think I predicted he'd get a move to the Premier League. He ended up moving to Man United.
Based on his acting skills?
So we've got another, yes, exactly. So we've got another one here, which means Reggie Cannon to Man United confirmed?
Definitely.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
To replace Alisson.
Perfect. James Jones scouting Andrew Carlton, the 17-year-old American attacker for Atlanta United. Andrew did not travel to Minnesota with Atlanta this past weekend after picking up strep throat at the U20 camp. This might not be the worst news, given that the forecast for that game called for it to be the coldest in MLS history.
I believe Atlanta won that game. It is a shame that Carlton couldn't double down on his assist that he got a couple of weeks ago to Martinez. Man, if you hang around with a bunch of kids, you get strep throat.
That's what happens. Yeah. That's what happens. As you can hear in my voice right now.
Yeah, but you were coaching, right?
This was mostly large groups of children eating all their Easter candy and then going out to play soccer and me having to raise my voice accordingly.
I gotcha. Alexander King is scouting...
Not yelling, just coaching louder.
There we go, coaching louder. Scouting Tyler Adams, the 19-year-old American midfielder for the New York Red Bulls. Alexander says Tyler Adams was all over the field for the USA in their 1-0 win over Paraguay. He cut out passing lanes, made smart tackles, frustrated the opposition, and drew a penalty for the game's only goal. Best of all, he got a special dance from Weston after the final whistle. All of that is accurate, but we disagreed on sort of how well earned that penalty was for the United States.
Yeah,
right?
Jonas Lehmann-Karp scouting Matt Miazga. No, yeah, we did, and we've heard from Phil Shane, we've heard from several other people who all say that Tyler Adams may be recognized. I'm in trouble. I am not yet flying through the air right now, but this is not good, so now I'm going to fly through the air right now.
All I'll say, Taylor, is I accept your apology.
Jonas Lehmann-Karp scouting Matt Miazga, the 22-year-old American center back on loan at Vitesse from Chelsea. Matt Miazga never apologizes to opposition, nor will I. Matt Miazga played brilliantly during the USA's 1-0 defeat of Paraguay, winning numerous headers and racking up 10 total defensive stops.
Yeah, he did have a good game. Okay, Michael Heitman is scouting Junior Flores, the 22-year-old American for Borussia Dortmund's medical table. Yeah. Michael says Flores has torn his ACL and is out for 6 months. Michael says Flores needs to leave Dortmund for the sake of his health.
It does seem like injuries continue for him.
Also, Michael, we have assigned you a new player to scout. The email should have been sent last night, so please check your inbox.
John Samponia scouting Jalen Lindsay, the 18-year-old American defender for Sporting KC. Jalen made the matchday squad for all 4 Sporting KC's games, but has not yet seen the pitch. As a result, he also hasn't played for Swope Park Rangers either.
That's frustrating.
It is a difficult situation. You want to see him in that matchday squad, potentially getting minutes. But then I also don't know if it's better for him to be starting in USL on a consistent basis or being in the matchday team.
We want him to play some pro soccer is what we want for Jalen Lindsay. Let's just trust that Peter Vermeers and co know what they're doing.
I think that's fair.
Daniel Jones is scouting Cody Cropper, the 25-year-old American goalkeeper for the New England Revolution. Cropper was named in the Minnesota All-Time 11, but still isn't starting for New England. In fact, he has yet to make the matchday squad this season. Matt Turner, former on-loan Kickers goalkeeper, is instead starting for the Revs, isn't he?
Brad Knighton, former Mills Godwin player, is the backup now.
Is that right? Wow, that's quite a Richmond connection in New England.
There we go. Patrick Snyder scouting Nick Tatagui, the 19-year-old American winger for Schalke.
Soon to be a big name.
Yes, I think so. Nick scored 2 goals against FC Tokyo in a friendly about which there has been very little information. I think Patrick found a tweet that Nick retweeted. Since returning from injury 5 weeks ago, Tatagui has been starting for the first-place Schalke U19s, who are 6 points clear with a goal difference of plus 41, so it seems like they like to do some attacking.
I'm just saying, if the only source for a big win for Schalke U19s against FC Tokyo is Nick Tatagui.
Yeah.
And the news is that Tatagui scored 2 goals. You got to question the source.
Well, I think it was an article that he then retweeted. But
I need a second source on that from nicktatagui.com.
You've been watching the newsroom, you need a second source? Come on.
Yeah. Matthew Shattuck is scouting Connor Presley, the 19-year-old American midfielder for San Antonio FC. Matthew says, Connor has gotten off to a hot start in USL play, playing a part in all of SAFC's 3 goals in the first 2 games of the season. Season opener, a 2-1 loss on the road in Sacramento. Connor entered as a second-half sub, had his shot bounce off the crossbar before eventually being put home by a San Antonio teammate, who I guess is going to be unnamed in the scouting report. In the home opener against St. Louis in week 2, Connor was rewarded with a start and twice initiated passing sequences that eventually became 2 second-half San Antonio goals in a come-from-behind 2-1 victory.
All right. Well done, Connor. Thank you, Matthew, for that one. Thank you, John Youngblood, for scouting Rio Griffiths, the 17-year-old English striker for Tottenham. That's Rio Griffiths. I say it again because I was not familiar with him. Tottenham's U18s rebounded from a loss to Chelsea in the Cup by walloping the Aston Villa U18s 5-0. Griffiths scored a brace in that game, though both were more in the right place, in the right time category than they were screamers from distance.
I say you got to do some work to be in the right place at the right time.
There you go, man.
Right?
There you go. Goals are goals.
Was it Greg Norman said, the harder I work, the luckier I get?
Sure, right up until he choked away the Masters, I believe it was. But yeah, why not?
Well, let's hope that doesn't happen to Rio Griffiths. Jim Stover is scouting Nelson Martinez, a 17-year-old American right-back for DC United. After racking up 2 assists from right-back in the US U18's 3-0 win over Costa Rica in February, that's where he first came to Scouting Network attention, Martinez has started and played the full 90 in all 3 of the DC United Academy games in March. He has also committed to the University of North Carolina, it's a good school, upon graduation in 2019, but may have other options. DC is said to be considering a homegrown contract. There are rumours that European clubs are showing interest as well. Is that cup about to floweth over with fullbacks?
I think so.
For US national teams?
There are more than a few in there. Taylor Mukari is scouting Ademola Lookman, the 20-year-old English attacker on loan at RB Leipzig from Everton. Lookman was called up to the England U21 squad for a friendly against Romania and then a Euro U21 qualifier against Ukraine. He started in the 2-1 friendly win at Molineux, assisted on the first goal and hit the post later in the game. He also got minutes in that Euro qualifier, which England won 2-1, leaving them very likely to qualify for the 2019 U21 European Championship.
I watched the highlights of this and Lookman really did look really good. Craig Allison is scouting Jack Harrison, the 21-year-old English midfielder on loan at Middlesbrough from Manchester City. Harrison's move from NYCFC to England has gotten off to a bit of a slow start. He's been a sub in 2 of Middlesbrough's matches since his transfer in January, and his recent call-up to the England under-21 squad was cut short due to injury. And Pep Guardiola still doesn't know who he is.
I believe you'll find it's Middlesbrough, Daryl. Middlesbrough. Still one I can't pronounce properly. Say it one more time.
Middlesbrough.
There we go.
Yeah.
Grayson Smith scouting Lautaro.
Oh, sorry, to give them the full name, Middlesbrough 1, Wolves 2.
I'm glad you get your way with that one. Grayson Smith scouting Lautaro Martinez, the 20-year-old Argentine striker for Racing Club. Martinez made his debut for Argentina in their friendly with Spain on Tuesday. Oof. Coming on for Higuain in the 60th minute. Unfortunately, Argentina were already 4-1 down, and Martinez only touched the ball 4 times as his team looked listless and deflated.
I actually haven't watched that game yet. I quite want to see it to see what on earth happened to Argentina.
That works. But Grayson concludes that it seems like it will be very difficult for Martinez to make the Argentina squad. Then again, stranger things have happened.
Nick Becker is scouting Sigi Milinkovic-Savic, the 23-year-old Serbian central midfielder for Lazio. Nick says SMS was not in Serbia's most recent squad, but after some digging,
I believe that was. Thanks, autocorrect.
Nick was able... Why would it autocorrect from digging to diffing?
I don't know, but it does weird things to my computer.
After some digging, Nick was able to determine that this was because of a minor muscle injury. Nick also wanted to add that Sigi Milinkovic-Savic, the Google alert, sent him 3 to 4 emails per day about transfer rumours, with most linking him to a move to Manchester United. They've already got the real Pogba. They need the Serbian Pogba as well.
Were you there when the aforementioned Pavlos and I were having this conversation about how this is the signing that Manchester United need, not just from a talent standpoint, but because with the loss of Zlatan, they have one less person who's over 6 foot tall. You get Milinkovic-Savic in there, now you're back in there.
Bring the average height up. Yeah.
I'm down for that one. Tim Higgins scouting Christopher Nkunku, the 20-year-old French winger/midfielder for Paris Saint-Germain. After seeing only limited playing time this season, I also say croissant, if you would prefer, Christopher has gotten 2 starts.
No, you don't, because I saw you try to order a chocolate croissant earlier. Yeah.
Le croissant. Christopher has gotten 2 starts and 3 goals in the last 4 weeks, including a brace against FC Metz. Not bad for only 194 minutes of action.
Zach Rose is scouting the magnificently named Ronaldo Vieira, who's a 19-year-old English midfielder for Leeds United. After a lengthy spell on the bench after yet another managerial change at Leeds United, Ronaldo got his first start of the Paul Heckingbottom era and went the full 90 in a 2-1 victory over Bolton. This appearance also came on the heels of a call-up to the England U20s for the friendlies against Portugal and Senegal. It's been a good 2 weeks for Ronaldo Vieira.
It has indeed, Dirty Leeds. Rusty Collins scouting Benny Boningime. I'm not sure how to get that one. I apologize. Baningime, the 19-year-old Congolese midfielder for Everton. You got a shot at that one, Daryl? Okay. Benny was a second-half sub in the 3-1 thrashing of Everton by Manchester City.
Oh.
It appeared that his primary task was to mark David Silva, and he managed to do a commendable job of preventing any threatening balls to Silva for the remainder of the game.
Yeah, the damage was already done.
Yeah.
I think at that point. But at least Benny Baningime doesn't take any of the blame. For
I think you got it there. Benny Baningime. Yeah.
So I recently assigned a lot of scouting players to scouts. If you recently joined the Scouting Network and would like your player, please email me, Daryl, D-A-R-Y-L, at totalsoccershow.com. Let me know that you're waiting for your player. If you'd like to join the Scouting Network, support the show, it is totalsoccershow.com/join. I've also had a couple confused people recently who have emailed asking for their scout, but they haven't signed up for the Scouting Network.
I always wonder.
Yeah, I want to make clear that the Scouting Network is only for people who are supporting the show with a monthly contribution via totalsoccershow.com/join.
And we appreciate anybody wanting to be involved in the show, but
Yes.
we especially appreciate those who have chosen to financially support the program.
Helps us keep on going. Thank you very much.
And keep those lights on as well.
Keep the lights are on right now.
Keep the levels going.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, rest of the week.
Yeah.
Here's what's on tap. Tuesday, it's Champions League quarterfinal first legs. Sevilla versus Bayern and Juve versus Real Madrid. Both first legs are 2:45 Eastern kickoff this Tuesday. Also Tuesday night, Toronto versus Club America in the CONCACAF Champions League. That's a semi-final.
And based on our schedule and my game on Tuesday night, I'm assuming that means that we're going to do Champions League, those first two UEFA Champions League recaps that afternoon. Maybe the CONCACAF Champions League will be on the Wednesday.
Yes, it will have to be because you'll be playing, right?
Indeed.
I'm not sure yet.
You can just record it by yourself if you want. You could try to do a Taylor impression.
It would not go well.
right now.
Wednesday, it's more Champions League quarterfinals. It's Liverpool versus Manchester City. Liverpool v Man City, Wednesday, 2:45 Eastern. There's also Barcelona versus Roma, which is also worth watching. 2:45 Eastern on Wednesday. And then that evening, Chivas de Guadalajara versus Red Bulls de New York. That is 10 p.m. Eastern on Univision Deportes and Go90.com.
I have a feeling there's already rumors that Alisson, the Roma goalkeeper, is going to be the subject of massive transfer bids this summer.
Yeah.
I feel like he'll get an opportunity to showcase the type of goalkeeper he is against Barcelona.
That could be interesting.
Yeah.
Right, so lots of great games. We're going to have sort of reviews soon after full time.
Yep.
We'll do sort of almost not quite quick take, hot take, a little more considered, but it won't be sort of an hour-long deep dive like we did into two Zlatan goals at the start of the show.
I feel like we say it's not going to be an hour long all the time, and it almost always ends. Even so, we'll find a way. We'll record with me on the road or something.
Taylor Rockwell, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Right back at you, buddy. Listeners,
Thank you for listening. We genuinely always appreciate it, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.
You gotta slice it.